John Quincy Adams, a fellow New Englander, elected official, and a person who deeply appreciated local democracy, once said that if you inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to be more, then you are a leader. Welcome tonight, both elected officials and family members, as we celebrate the oath of office for our elected officials for the next term of office. My name is Chris Kelly. I'm a departing member of the Board of Selectmen. Thank you, and it is my pleasure to have the opportunity to be your Master of Ceremonies this evening. And we will start with an honor guard from the Simsbury Police Department, as well as Boy Scout Troop 76, as they lead the Board of Selectmen to the front of the audience. Honor guard. Please remain standing as we do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to welcome two members of Simsbury Singers from Simsbury High School, Kaylee Flaherty and Ethan Hamlin, as they sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, both of you. Service to community, you can sit down now. Service to community comes in many forms, and our guest speaker tonight is an individual who lives in Simsbury, but also has served Simsbury as an educator. Our speaker, Dr. Eileen O'Neill, served 16 years in Simsbury as the coordinator of special services, and several years ago moved to become assistant principal at Avon High School. Dr. O'Neill did both her master's as well as her doctoral at Central Connecticut State University. and did her undergraduate work at Boston University. In addition to teaching or being involved in education in both Avon and Simsbury, previously she worked in both Massachusetts as well as North Carolina. Dr. O'Neill is known as someone who has a passion for creating an environment of respect and inclusion. And it really was that passion and that record of success that inspired our first select person, Eric Wellman, to ask her to say some words tonight. Doctor, please come up and join us.
That made me sound fantastic. Let's hope I keep up with that. Good evening. It is my sincere honor to be asked to speak to you this evening, and I would like to offer you my congratulations and gratitude for your willingness to serve our community. A special thanks to Eric Wellman, our first selectman, for asking me to speak this evening on the topic of diversity and inclusion. Let me be clear, as a bit of an introvert, public speaking was never my goal. While I have spoken on the issue of equity in very public venues on several occasions, it is not a place in which I am comfortable. That said, this topic is a place of passion for me, and I am honored to be here this evening. As a resident of this town, I am grateful that you are willing to serve in government, so thank you. I'm going to start by acknowledging the obvious. Bipartisanship is sorely missing in our lives these days, and it is badly needed to have an effective government in a pluralistic society. One of the key concepts in pluralism is tolerance. I'd like to think we can do better than that and move toward the ideal of community and a sense of belonging for all. We don't have to agree with a person's religious beliefs, their politics, or their choices. But to steal a bit from Mr. Rogers, we can all be civil. I'd like to think we can all be welcoming. While it is not my quickest way home from work at Avon High School, I often find a reason to drive down Iron Horse Boulevard so I can see the Pride sidewalk and the beautiful flags. It is a clearly visible sign of our town's inclusive spirit and commitment to equity, and it makes me smile. I stopped there before I came here tonight. I had the honor of speaking along with several other people at the dedication ceremony this summer. My son and his husband attended the ceremony, and my son joined me on the stage afterwards for a picture to commemorate the public display of inclusion in this community, our community. I don't know if we will ever truly appreciate how important that symbol is to people who have felt marginalized because of who they are. When I entered college the first time, more years ago than I plan to share with you this evening, I wanted to be a special education teacher. I had tutored a student when I was in high school, and I'd been struck by how often she was upset by the way she was treated in the classroom. She was deaf and needed to read lips in order to understand what was being said. At the time, there was no special education law at the national level, and there was no organized effort to equip teachers with the skills required to support someone like her. It was then that I decided I was going to be a teacher who would know how to teach everyone. I think it is fair to say that I had no idea what I was talking about at the time. The hubris of youth was clearly driving my plan, but here I am all those years later, and education is still my passion, and equity and inclusion still drive my decisions. It has been an uphill battle at times, but it is worth fighting for, and the wins eclipse the losses. About 7 years ago, I was tasked with writing my philosophy of education while taking a course that was to be used as an entrance exam of sorts for the doctoral program I had applied to. I wrote 2 sentences and tried to decide which one would get first billing. I believe I went with "we are more alike than we are different" at first. But ultimately, my guiding belief became education is the promise of equity in a democracy. That has been my guidepost since settling on it. It forces me to keep a sharp focus on policies and practices that serve that principle, and by design, all people. At its roots, it strives to equip every child with the knowledge and skills essential for living so that they can not only become contributing citizens of our democracy, but also so that they can thrive. When thinking about this evening and what I could possibly say to you that would be supportive of your work for this community, I thought about this ideal that I had established for myself so many years ago. Let's be clear, I don't know that I would have articulated my guiding philosophy if I had not decided to pursue a doctoral degree, and I'm pretty sure no one has asked you to do that either. But what if you did do that? Would it help you to maintain a focus on your guiding belief as you make some tough choices as a member of a governing body here in Simsbury? So here's my challenge to all of you. Perhaps we can reword slightly and say the government should adopt the ideal and ensure the promise of equity and inclusion. That should be our litmus test for adopting policies and practices in the way we do business. I think that no place that I'm aware of is more ready for that high bar than Simsbury. Because we are more alike than we are different, despite the noise of partisan politics. I believe we can set the standard for other communities, and perhaps one day even our country, if we focus on what unites us rather than what divides us. There is no limit to what we can accomplish. Thank you.
Dr. O'Neill, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Town Clerk Erica Butler to come up to the front. We will do our oaths of office at this point, starting with First Select Person Eric Wellman, followed by the Board of Selectmen, and then followed by all other elected officials. Eric, come forward. Erica. I've got an audience coming.
Eric, please raise your right hand. Eric Wellman, do you solemnly swear to faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as the first selectman to the town of Simsbury to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now I would ask Select Person Jackie Bados, Chris Peterson, Sean Askham, Mike Payne, and Wendy Maxdudis to stand up, please. Erica?
Okay. If everybody could raise their right hands, please. Do you solemnly swear to faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as members of the Board of Selectmen to the town of Simsbury to the best of your abilities, so help you God? Congratulations.
And now we ask all other elected officials to stand up, come forward, and Erica will give the oath of office.
All set?
Your energy is pulsating through the building.
Either that or it's my nerves, because I really don't like it. Okay, everybody raise your right hands. Do you all solemnly swear to faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as an elected official to the town of Simsbury to the best of your abilities, so help you God? I do. Congratulations.
Erica, thank you very much. Now I ask Deputy First Select Person Sean Askham to come up for a few remarks.
Thank you, Chris. It's a little scary that my fellow selectmen gave me the microphone, as they know generally what happens when they do that. First and foremost, we should thank Chris Kelly once again with a round of applause for his service to this community. I personally am going to very much miss my sparring partner up on the board, but I'm sure there are other folks that are up to the task. I'm honored to be standing here at the request of First Selectman Eric Wellman as he asked me to be his deputy during this term. Again, congratulations to all the newly elected board and commission members. Thank you for standing up to serve our great community with your time, your passion, and your guidance. You will help set the tone for this town for the next decade with the decisions you make during this term. In my decade of public service, I've had the privilege of serving alongside so many amazing folks that deeply care for Simsbury, and I've enjoyed that experience. Our nation is on a dangerous path for many reasons. The most concerning is the continued lack of communication and common ground. We're all Americans who identify countless ways, some similar, some different. Too often our leaders point out negative differences to drive hate, fear, or confusion. This is not the leadership we should reward with our support or with our silence. Instead, we should demand more from our elected leaders. We should stand up and demand action. Compromise, putting our children and our communities above all, is what we should stand for. We should open our ears, our minds, and our hearts to other points of view. This doesn't mean we should give up our values. Rather, we should be listening for the common ones, values that can facilitate bringing us further together instead of driving us further apart. I promise they'll agree. I will share that in my experience, values that unite us are far more common than some of you might realize. This isn't a surprise, though, to all of us that live, work, and love this town. Eric and I have received overwhelming feedback that our partnership is an example that makes folks proud and gives them hope that our leaders can work together. In this small town, in our small state, 2 volunteers amongst many are just trying to do what's best for Simsbury. I know we're not alone in this room or in this community as we work together. Let's all set the example that there is a better way. There is a path for civility, for collaboration, for input of different perspectives, for being true to your values. I challenge each of you to remember that the letter next to your name on the ballot has nothing to do with the service to this community. You were elected to make decisions that are the best decisions possible for the 25,000 residents of Simsbury, not one party or the other. No matter the issue, the challenge, the disagreement, remember, the best solution is often the combination of many ideas, thoughts, perspective. In other words, compromise. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Now for some words from First Select Person Eric Wellman. Eric?
Thank you, Chris, and good evening. I want to congratulate all of the elected officials who took the oath of office tonight. I know that putting your name on a ballot is not an easy thing to do. I thank Sean Askham for agreeing to serve as my deputy, and welcome back returning members of the Board of Selectmen, Mike Payne and Sean Askham, and welcome new members Wendy Maxtutis and Jackie Batos, one of whom is a self-described townie, and the other one has lived here long enough to be an honorary townie, and I'm not going to tell you which one is which, but I'm really happy that you're both here. I'd also like to recognize former First Select Woman Anita Mueller, who's here with us tonight. Also, my family is here, my wife Rachel and my daughter Jana. Serving as First Selectman is a family commitment, and I am infinitely grateful for both of your supports. Thank you to Chris Kelly for serving as Master of Ceremonies. Chris decided not to run for re-election after literally decades of public service to our town on the Board of Education and Board of Selectmen. Chris began his public service to our town in the 1980s. His experience and his perspective is one that is valued across party lines, and I know that he will be sorely missed. Please join me in wishing Chris well. It is easy to forget that the people who serve our town, from the Board of Selectmen to the Board of Education to the Board of Finance to our land use commissions to the Library Board of Directors, are volunteers. Volunteers who will be dedicating countless hours of service to our town over the next 2 to 6 years, and I'm grateful for your service. And one of the privileges of running for office is the opportunity to speak with hundreds of people at their doors, people who are essentially strangers who chatted with me on their front steps or were kind enough to let me into their foyers or their living rooms. And each time I spoke with people, I asked a variant of a similar question: what feedback do you have for us? How are we doing? And overall, people love living in Simsbury, but there are two constructive criticisms that emerge from these conversations, and they're things that stand diametrically opposed to each other. The first is the issue of affordability and taxes, and the other is growth and development. And I share that these are opposing forces because it is growth that is our single best lever that keeps taxes in check. Yet in Simsbury, we don't want unchecked growth. And relying on growth to maintain affordability is an unsustainable business model. Communities across Connecticut and the state of Connecticut need to seriously think differently about how we support vital services for our residents. The elected officials who were sworn in tonight are going to have an incredible influence on how our town moves into the future. Not just what we look like as a town, but our ability, our residents' ability to afford to live here. There is no single board in Simsbury that determines what taxes we pay. That's a collaboration between Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education. We actually had a joint meeting on Tuesday to kick off the 4-month process we call budget season. And likewise, there's no single board that determines what Simsbury looks like. That's the purview of 3 elected boards and at least 2 others that are appointed. When you're running for office, people implore you to find ways to cut taxes. And when you're in office, all you get are new ideas on how to spend money. I would love to see more citizen participation, especially in our budget process. It's a process that consumes about 1/3 of our year, and it ends with an outline of how we're going to spend about $100 million. One thing I'll commit to is how we communicate, making sure that the process and the opportunities to get involved are clear. I'd like to especially thank Eileen O'Neill for serving as our keynote speaker tonight. Issues of diversity and inclusion are very important to me, to our Board of Selectmen, and to our town. When I think about the nature of diversity, it goes beyond the color of skin, it goes beyond religion, gender, and who we love. A community that welcomes diversity must also welcome diversity of thought. If our town is going to live up to its potential, heck, if our state is going to live up to its potential, or our great country is going to live up to its potential, we need to break out of the grip of partisan dysfunction. Simsbury, our state, and our country are best served when we view differences in perspective as opportunities rather than as threats, and we sit down together and focus on what it is we have in common and how we're going to get that work done, because there is so much more that unites us than divides us. 350 years ago, John Case, Joshua Holcomb, and Thomas Barber presented a petition to the General Court requesting that this place we call home today become a town of the colony of Connecticut. For those who raised their right hand today, we continue a tradition that started 3.5 centuries ago. I'm grateful for the opportunity to lead our town into its 350th year, and I look forward to doing it collaboratively with all of you. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, Eric. I started by quoting a famous New England politician, John Quincy Adams. I'll end the evening by quoting another famous New England politician, President JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Our themes tonight are collaboration, inclusion, engagement, a respect for democracy. John Kennedy once said, "Each person can make a difference, and you should try." Tonight we've heard from individuals who work for communities. We've heard from individuals who have stepped forward to lead communities. And I end the evening by saying thank you to all of you. And congratulations to our elected officials for earning the right to be here from the voters. With that said, the color guard, or the honor guard, will exit with our Board of Selectmen following them. That concludes our evening. Thank you, everyone.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.